apparently it's a child. I guess she's responsible for him or her.
Should you ask for her to be excused?
No objection.
No objection.
What number is that?
13.
What's her juror?
Oh.
D14.
Okay, thank you.
State disagrees.
And sheet number?
It's on 13.
Number 13.
If you just have her step in, I'll thank her, let her go.
You want to excuse her? You don't have to do that now, is that what you're saying?
Well, I assume.
Judge, we also spoke while you were out and we identified.
Mr. Tisdale told me about your situation, so I'll go ahead and release you. Thank you for bearing with us. I appreciate your patience, but you're free to go, okay? Okay.
Take care.
Okay, go ahead.
I was just saying, I spoke with the defense a few minutes ago while you were out, and we've identified 6 of this group that don't have any media or other nature of the case exposure that can be given a card to call back tonight.
Okay.
That's the juror in seat 9.
Ms. Amos,
Ms.
okay.
Amos. The juror in seat 16.
Okay.
The juror in seat 20.
Mr. Ware is in seat 16, Ms. Rooms in seat 20, okay.
Yes, sir. Ms. Martinez in seat 36.
They've already left, though, I think.
Oh, I don't know. Did we already let them go?
They're coming back, though.
36 would have.
All right.
We
Well,
address those in
maybe
the
we could
afternoon.
get the jury clerk to call her so she doesn't have to come all the way back here to be turned right back around at 1 o'clock. There's only 3 of them in those last 3 rows, Judge. So.
Okay. Defense agrees to
Yes,
give
sir.
them a card to have them call tonight after 5.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Then the only other 2 that's in that group that apparently are already gone is Ms. Barfold in seat 39.
Ms. Barthold. And 36 was Barbara Martinez.
Correct.
Okay.
And then seat 51, Kirk Watson.
Defense agrees to excuse him from today's session, to have him call back after 5 p.m.
Yes, Your Honor.
Someone's in trouble, have somebody give him a call and say, if they'll call back, that's fine. Okay, clerk, somebody at the clerk's office will call him.
I know.
All right,
You want those 3?
if you can have those 3 come in, I'll tell them to go. I won't even say not just bring them in. They're just
Well, is there an element of anger associated with those? Yes. Thank you, sir. That wasn't necessary.
Take a right hand, ladies.
Y'all are okay right there. Let me just make sure I got my right folks. Ms. Amos? Okay. Ms. Ferreira? Is that pronounced properly?
Perfect, actually.
No way.
Yep.
Really? I'll quit while I'm ahead. And Ms. Roman, is that pronounced properly?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to excuse y'all for today. It's a long story, but I'll excuse y'all for today. Ms. Yvonne's going to give you red cards with a phone number on the back. If you'll call that number tonight after 5 p.m., there'll be some instructions about what we need you to do, if anything, about this case. So as soon as she gives you the card, y'all can go. But if you'll please call after 5 p.m. tonight. You don't have to come back today unless you want to. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Y'all are free to go, but make sure you call that number, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, y'all want to have Ms. O'Shea come in?
Yeah.
She didn't indicate she knew anything about it, but there was something about the nature of the
On
charge.
the questionnaire she did, Your Honor,
Question.
and there was also something about the charges.
All right, have,
We just have 1 second with Ms. Fernandez, just like us, go to the bathroom, and he's going to be doing this part.
Oh, here.
Oh, there he is.
Staying on my feet.
Thank you, sir.
You ready to get cracking? Do you, Judge Sienkiewicz?
I'm ready.
And Ms. O'Shea?
Yes. You have a seat right
Ms. O'Shea, this way, please. Come right down the side here. And take a seat right there.
Ms. O'Shea, thanks for bearing with us very much. Go ahead and have a seat, ma'am. You're not in trouble, you haven't done anything wrong, don't worry. I'm just going to let them talk to you outside the presence of the other folks for just a few minutes.
Okay.
So if you just make sure you speak up for us so we can hear you, and just be as candid with us as you can, okay?
Yes.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Thank you for your patience. I know this is trying. You indicated in your response to the judge's questions this morning that there is something about the nature of the charges that could cause you difficulty. You've also expressed some concerns in your jury questionnaire regarding the nature of the charges and the facts and so forth. So this is kind of your opportunity without everybody around to tell us what it is that you feel could create some problems for you in being a juror.
Okay, well, I'm against capital punishment to begin with.
Okay, under any
Because of my
circumstances?
religion. Yes.
Okay.
Because of my religion, I'm
Okay.
Catholic.
Okay.
And in my community, there is a memorial to Gary Morales, which I pass quite frequently,
Mhm.
and his parents live in my community.
Okay.
And I believe, at one time he must have lived there too. I'm not sure,
Okay.
if that's accurate.
All right.
My husband has been in law enforcement his entire life, that's his career.
Okay.
And my brother-in-law also was a sergeant on the NYPD.
Okay. All right, so are you telling, I think I know what you're telling us, but as a result of all of this, do you feel there's no way you could be fair and impartial in this case?
I don't feel that I could be it fair and
Okay.
impartial.
All right, man. Thank you for your honesty. Appreciate it.
Mr. Manchin? Hang on just one second, Ms. O'Shea.
I'm sorry, Judge, may I just have one more second?
Yes, sir.
We have no objection if the state's going to be moving for calls.
We would so move.
Ms. O'Shea, I'm going to go ahead and release you from service. I appreciate you bearing with us and shuffling back and forth. I know it's been an imposition on your time, but I appreciate you being willing to do your civic duty with us. You're free to go. You don't have to come back and stay unless you want to, but I do want to thank you before you go, okay?
Okay, thank
You have a
you.
nice weekend, ma'am.
Thank you.
Estrellas, Jean Estrellas. Ms. O'Shea's been excused for cause by the state without this objection.
Sir, up here, please. And take a seat right there.
Morning, sir. I'm going to try and pronounce your name properly. Is it Estrellas?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Estrellas, thanks for bearing with us. You're not in trouble, you haven't done anything wrong. I want to bring you in and let them talk to you outside the presence of the other folks for just a few minutes. Thank you for your time. So if you'll just make sure you speak up so we can hear you and be as candid with us as you can, okay?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yes, thank you. We also thank you for your patience. So obviously, we bring you in, although it looks like it would make no difference because everybody seemed to indicate they have some information, but we don't want everybody to have everybody else's information. So the point here is to talk to you alone. I start off by informing you, you're not disqualified necessarily from jury duty because you may know or think you know something about a case, or even if as a result of that you formed any opinions, which according to your questionnaire you have not. Yes. So basically, we're just here to make sure that you can follow the law. This is a court of law. The rule of law applies here, and nothing else matters. Okay? Are you consider yourself a rule follower?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Start off with telling me and all of us, to the best of your ability, what it is you think you know about the case, when you heard about it, and the source of that information.
Just basically that the officer was killed in the line of duty.
Okay?
Other than that, I don't watch the news. I don't read the paper.
Okay.
I mean, if it's not a sports center, I don't get the news. I mean, just, when it happened, you saw everybody talking about an officer that got killed in the line of duty, that's about it.
Okay, but you don't have any information regarding the facts and the details surrounding the events, anything like that?
No, sir.
Okay, that's good. So this makes this next question easier to answer, I think. So what the judge will tell you is that in this case, basically the defendant's guilt must be proven by the government, by the state, by Mr. Eisenhower and I. We do that by calling witnesses. And you sit here in the witness stand and you say, okay, I believe that person, I don't believe that person. Their testimony is consistent with the other evidence and other testimony, or it's not. And when it's all said and done, based upon what happens in this courtroom, you render a verdict, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What we need to do is get a commitment from you that you're willing to follow that law, that your verdict will be based on the evidence. Can you follow that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And will you also promise us that you will not allow, although it doesn't sound like there's anything to it, but anything you may have read, saw, or heard 2 years ago to affect what happens in terms of your legal duties here?
Yes, sir.
You promise us that? Okay. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it. Don't go there, probably going to want
Hang
to.
on, sir, Mr. Manship.
Hi, Mr. Schultz.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Not too bad.
All right, I just have some questions about what you already know about the case. And you started off by telling them, the prosecutor, that you know that there was an officer that was killed in the line of duty. And how was the officer killed?
He was shot.
All right.
That's all I know. I mean,
And how did you, or let me ask first, when did you wind up learning this?
roughly when it happened, because everybody was talking about the police officer and his family and stuff, but that's it.
And by everybody, is that people that you live with, work with, family?
At work.
On social media?
Nah, like I said, I don't really watch the news or anything. It's just people at work, but
And what were people at work telling you about it?
just that an officer had gotten killed. I mean, that's it.
Do you work with law enforcement in your job at all?
I work at Publix, so,
Mhm.
I mean, they shop in there,
Okay.
but everybody shops in there. I'm sure some of you guys have been in there at some point.
Yeah, of course.
You know, I mean, it's a grocery store. But other than that, I don't have anybody that's a cop or anything in my family.
Sure. So after you heard about it at work, when you went home, did you wind up catching anything on the television?
I usually get off of work 6:30. I go home, eat with my wife and kids, and by that time something's on TV that I watch. I don't.
Yeah, I heard you say Sports Center. Do you ever watch the evening or the morning local news?
No.
Do you get a newspaper delivered to your house?
Nope.
Do you read any of the local newspapers online?
Nope.
How about, well, I guess the television news stations have online things as well. So just so I wasn't too vague, do you read any of the local news online? You're shaking your head now.
No, sir.
And do you have a Facebook?
Yeah.
On your Facebook feed, do you get updates from the local news stations?
I might. I mean, like I said, I have stuff on there. I know the weather pops up in there.
Okay. Do you recall seeing anything about this case back when it originally happened?
When I walked in, I didn't even know who the gentleman was there.
Okay.
I mean,
How about before you came in here and filled out the questionnaire, in the 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks before that, did you see anything about this case? You're shaking your head no again?
no, sir.
The fact that you have some outside knowledge in this case, and I get what he's questioning you about. Oh, can you set it aside? If you wind up hearing facts and evidence that comes from the witness stand or other evidence that's presented that winds up confirming what you already heard, are you going to be more likely to believe that fact?
But I haven't heard anything that happened. That's what I'm saying. All I heard was the officer was shot. I mean, that.
Sure.
The judge told us that when he debriefed us.
Well,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm sorry. The officer had passed away, but I mean, like I said, I don't know anything about the
Right, because the judge didn't tell you he was shot. That's the charging document says murder with a firearm. okay? That's what the prosecutor's alleging,
Mhm.
but that's not evidence, and the judge hasn't told you that.
Yeah.
But you have outside knowledge that a deputy was killed with a gun by being shot, right?
Yes.
So now that you have that outside knowledge, if you hear evidence or testimony about that inside of this case, is that fact going to wind up being reinforced, and you're going to more easily accept it because that's something that you've already heard?
I don't think so, that's.
Okay. All right. I don't have any other questions for you. Thank you very much.
Anything further?
No, sir.
Wish you could give him a card?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Estrellas, we're going to give you a card with a phone number on the back of it. You're free to go today. If you'll please call this number after 5 p.m. tonight, there'll be some information on there about whether we need you to do anything else, if anything, with this case, okay?
Okay.
But you're free to go now. Thank you for your time. As soon as this nice lady gives you the card, you're free to go.
Thank you. Have a good day, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Dylan Uber.
Mr. Huber, this way, please.
Mr. Uber, thanks for bearing with us. You can have a seat right there in that front row there on your left.
Thank you.
Right there's fine. Mr. Uber, thanks for bearing with us. I appreciate your patience very much. You haven't done anything wrong. You're not in trouble or anything. I'm going to let them talk to you outside the presence of the other folks for just a few minutes. So if you just make sure you speak up so we can hear you and be as candid with us as you can, okay?
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Thank you for your patience. We brought you in because today you indicated, and I know in your questionnaire you indicated you weren't sure if you knew something. It's obvious that over time something's come to you, so we appreciate you raise your hand. That's what this is all about. We do it out individually so that the other jurors don't hear what you have to say. I start off by telling you that what you need to understand is that we're in a court of law where the only thing that matters is the rule of law and your willingness to commit to your oath to follow the law. Are you with me?
Yes.
Okay, do you follow the law as a matter of course?
Yes, sir.
Good idea. All right, so tell us first of all what you think you know about the case, when you think you heard about it.
I do not know many specifics.
Okay.
I've heard about it when it happened in
Okay.
2013.
When?
In 2013.
Okay.
I've heard about it like on news or whatever.
Right.
I've heard about it like through talk radio and stuff like that, but I've never read up on it, or I really do not know specifics.
Okay, so, and that, you know, I mean, that, because it's so long ago, that's kind of a general response we get from everybody, but let's do this. Tell me as best as you can recall, any details, anything about what transpired around the incident, after the incident, before, anything you can remember.
It was kind of just a cop died in Fort Pierce, and
Okay?
I really don't, like I said, I really do not know many specifics. I just heard a lot about it.
Okay. And as
It
a
was brought up in conversation a lot.
Okay. And as a result of anything you heard, you've indicated in here you have not formed any opinions regarding the guilt or innocence of anybody, correct?
No, sir.
And would you agree with me that it would be, if you don't know anything, how can you form an opinion about somebody's guilt?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So here's the law. The law is that a juror must presume a defendant to be innocent. You heard that before in high school, I'm sure, or college or whatever.
Yes.
And that the government, Mr. Eisenhower and I, accused him of murder, and therefore we got to prove it. I don't get to prove it because of something somebody heard out on the street. I prove it here in court. And I prove it with witnesses, testimony, evidence, and exhibits, and you decide at the end of the day, did we prove our case beyond a reasonable doubt? That's what the law requires you to do. Can you do that?
I'm not sure.
Okay, tell me why.
I do not feel like I have enough say. I don't feel like.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I mean, I know this may sound weird. I'm still young. I mean, I'm only 20 years old.
Yeah.
I feel like this is kind of a big thing to me. To
Okay.
Put another young man's life in my hands almost.
Okay.
I mean, I know it's not really to that extent.
Yeah.
I really don't understand this to the full extent.
Okay.
It's my first time, but you understand what I'm saying,
I
right?
do. And when we would get you all, at some point in time, we're going to have everybody together. And we usually do talk to the young people about that. So you're bringing it up now, and we might as well address it because it's something I would raise. Do you feel, and this is only you can tell us, and the judge has got to understand exactly what's in your mind, but do you feel that because of your youth and I guess lack of life experience or whatever the case might be, do you feel that you would be uncomfortable in carrying out your duties as a juror?
And accusing somebody of something, yes, I do.
Okay. And do you think that that could affect or impact your ability to arrive at a verdict in this case?
I'm not going to say no, I could not.
Uh-huh.
But obviously, I know nothing right
Right.
now. As time may go, I could possibly, but I do not really feel comfortable, as I said.
Okay. And I guess that's my are you saying that if you got in here with 11 adults and you came out and said, my position is X, and they all said, you don't know what you're talking about, we've got a lot more life experience, that you might change your mind because you think they have more experience over you?
Yes, maybe.
Okay. And of course, that would be not, the law would tell you shouldn't do that, and you have a concern that that could happen.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Is there anything else about the case? You touched on the fact, you said something about life, the defendant's life in your hands. Are you commenting on the death penalty, or are you just commenting on the case itself?
The death penalty also, and the case being that he's a younger individual,
Okay.
as you would say.
Okay. And do you feel that because of his age, that could affect how you view the case?
I'm not really sure
Okay.
how I would feel about that.
All right. And on this issue of the death penalty, is that a matter that's beyond you? Is that part of what you're talking about?
I feel that it's right in some cases,
Okay.
and others not. But
Okay. But, and that's fine, and that's good, but what I'm asking you about is, do you feel you would have the ability to recommend a death sentence, or are you telling us that's part of your uncomfortableness?
I would not be able to recommend a death sentence, yes. I would not be able to.
You couldn't do it?
I couldn't do that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I don't have any questions, thank you.
We would move for cause, Your Honor.
Let's have any objection.
No, we're projecting.
Okay, why don't y'all come on. Mr. Hoover, bear with us just a minute, okay? Thank you for bearing with us and filling out the paperwork, coming in, letting us get a crack at you and doing your civic duty for us. You're free to go. You don't have to stay or come back unless you want to, but I do want to thank you before you go, okay? Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
C4.
Mr. Hoover's excuse recall. Keisha Perry.
C4.
By the state for defense objection.
Ms. Perry, up here, please. Thank you. Just take a seat right there.
Morning, Ms. Perry. Thanks for bearing with us. We appreciate your patience. You haven't done anything wrong. You're not in trouble or anything. We want to bring in, outside the presence of the other folks, let them talk to you for just a few minutes. So if you just make sure you speak up for us and just be as candid with us as you can, okay?
Okay.
Thanks.
Good morning, Ms. Perry.
Good morning.
You had apparently raised your hand in response to the judge's question regarding either knowledge about the case or not being able to, something about the charges or whatever. I don't remember exactly what it was. You remember, it only happened 5 minutes ago and I've already forgotten.
Yes.
Tell us what that is.
I raised my hand when he asked about, do I know this case?
Okay. Okay, so I know in your questionnaire you did not indicate anything about knowing the case. I assume that when you sat in here and heard the charges, something came back.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Let's start off by talking about what it is you think you know about the case, and tell us in as much detail where you got that information from and when, if you can remember.
A student that I was attending school with was living in the area, and where the area where it took place at, it was right around his house. So we was going to school, so we spoke about it, and that was it.
Okay. Do you remember the student's name? Can you remember who it was?
His name was Magner.
Magner?
Yes.
Okay, there's a witness in the case whose last name is Magner, and I think he might be Haitian?
Yes.
Are they Haitian?
Yes.
Okay, so do you know this kid, do you also know his family, or you just know him?
No, I just know him. We just attended school together.
Okay. So what did he tell you? Did he say he saw something, heard something? What did he tell you about what he thinks happened?
Nah, he just said, he just seen the police cars in front of his house, and that was about it. He just said that he heard that somebody got shot, and it was a cop, and the person fled from the crime scene, and they just caught the person like a few minutes away from the crime scene, and that was it.
All right. And you don't know anything about this case other than what this guy told you, right?
Right?
Okay. And you have not, I assume, formed any opinions regarding the guilt or innocence of
No.
anybody? Because that's not evidence, right?
Yeah, right?
Okay, and the law, here's what the law will tell you. If you come in here and you serve as a juror in this case, the law is you sit in this box, we call witnesses. They swear to tell the truth. You determine, are they being honest? You determine, is their testimony consistent with the other testimony and the evidence in the case? And then based on that, you arrive at a verdict in the case. Are you with me?
I'm with you.
Okay, and so the question I have for you is, can you follow that? Is there any reason why you wouldn't be able to follow? The judge is going to have instructions on all the laws in this case. From the beginning of this case to the very end of this case, he'll tell you what the laws are. Do you see any reason why you wouldn't be able to follow any of the court's instructions on the law?
No, sir.
Okay, and can you promise us that you'll leave outside whatever Mr. Magner told you and judge this case based only on what happens in here?
Sure.
Okay, thank you very much.
You know.
Good morning, Ms. Perry.
Good morning.
Just wanted to say hi. I don't have any questions for you.
All right, then.
Thank you, ma'am, very much. I'm going to let you go. Before you go, though, I'm going to give you a card with a phone number on the back of it. If you'll call this number after 5 p.m. tonight, there'll be some information about what, if anything else we need you to do. But you're free to go the rest of the day, okay?
All right.
So just call this number after 5 p.m. then. Thanks for bearing with us. As soon as she gives you the card, you can go. Andres Tovar.
Sir, up here, please. Come right over here.
Tovar, thanks for bearing with us. You can have a seat there.
Take a seat.
There on your left.
Thank you.
Thanks for bearing with us, sir. We appreciate your patience. You're not in trouble. You haven't done anything wrong. I'm going to let them talk to you outside the presence of the other jurors for just a minute or a few minutes. Make sure you speak up so we can hear you, and just be as candid with us as you can, okay?
Good morning, Mr. Tovar.
Good morning.
I know that you indicated in your questionnaire that you may have had some media exposure, and you also raised your hand this morning when the judge was asking about, excuse me, the nature of the charges. So that's what we brought you in to talk about. We don't want you talking about this in front of the other jurors so they know what you know, and we don't want them talking in front of you so you get what I'm saying.
What is that?
Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off by talking about some basic premise of law, some theories of law, and to get some commitments from you one way or the other regarding your ability to follow.
Okay.
I start off by saying obviously we're in a court of law. And therefore, the only thing that matters, the only thing that controls is the law. And the judge will be the final word on what the law is. You don't have to worry about taking the lawyer's word for what the law is. He will tell you eventually, okay? You got to say yes or no because they're recording it.
Yes.
It's okay. So the first law the judge will instruct you on, which is kind of like the foundation of the American criminal justice system, is the presumption of innocence. Have you ever heard of that?
Yes.
Okay. So everybody who walks through that door, whether it's a whether it's a theft of bubble gum or a first-degree murder, is entitled to be presumed innocent by any prospective jurors. That doesn't mean they're innocent, but what that means is you must, at the outset, presume him to be innocent until and unless the government, who charged him with a crime and therefore has the burden of proving it, because when your government accuses one of your fellow citizens of a crime, it's their job to prove it. Until we put on witnesses that come into this courtroom and raise their right hand and swear to tell the truth, and you assess their credibility and you look at all the testimony, then and only then can you arrive at a verdict in this case, okay? So you've got the presumption of innocence and the burden of proof. That's basically the entire criminal justice system in a nutshell. One thing we can't rely upon, which is clear and should make sense to you, is we can't rely upon information gathered from outside the courtroom, right? because it's not subject to testing, it's not it could be third, fourth hand, it's not necessarily reliable, would you agree?
Yes.
Okay. So let's keep those two concepts in mind, and then let me have you tell us in as much detail as possible, and you offered some insight in your questionnaire as to what information you discovered or learned outside the courtroom, and tell us when and the source of that information.
Yes, so when the event happened a couple of years ago, it was obviously made the news, and I don't personally knew Officer Gary Morales, but we had some mutual friends, and there were certain, I think it was a family man, and I think he attended a local gym, and we had some events for him after that happened, for his family and so forth. So I was a little, I learned about the news and what had happened back then, which I guess has been 2 years since. I never dug into exactly what happened. It's just the information that was provided either by friends, or maybe what was in the paper or whatever, but I never dug deeper to find out exactly what happened. So all I know is, word of mouth from friends of friends and so forth.
Okay, let's dig a little bit deeper into, you referenced something about fundraisers or something of that nature. Tell me about that. What are you talking about?
Well, specifically, and again, I don't remember, it's been a couple of years, but I believe he belonged to the workout CrossFit community. The Fort Pierce gym hosted some sort of event, and that's what I'm referring to.
Did you participate in that?
We did, and again, it's through probably different friends but yeah, we attended. I think we did a workout. That's what it was. It was like a workout that we did.
And then that raised some money or something?
I don't know exactly. Maybe to show support for the family of what had happened, or something to that nature.
Okay.
Again, I didn't know him personally, but
right.
I do remember hearing the news and the events.
All right. Let's talk about, so the issue is, just like I talked to you about information that you gathered, and again, it doesn't sound like, as it relates to the events surrounding the crime, that you have details. But we talk about how that information is not to be used or relied upon by a jury. That's the law. Can you accept that?
I understand that, yes.
Okay. Also, one of the things the judge tells you is that sympathies for anybody, a victim or a defendant or whomever, or bias or prejudice or any of that, also should not be considered in this process of determining guilt or innocence. So my question to you is, could you follow that particular instruction?
I understand the law and what its purpose is. Based on what I've heard, it's yes, I guess I could follow that. It's the way I feel about this is from what I heard, and again, I don't know if I can talk about what I heard.
Yes.
Can I talk
Yes.
about? So what I heard again, maybe again I didn't dig deeper than what I heard, which was basically Officer Morales got in the middle of the duty, he got shot and killed, and I have a hard time, listening or.
Let me stop you for a second. I'm just going to ask you very simply, because it's clear you're conflicted. And ultimately what we need to determine is, do you have a doubt in your own mind that because of your connection to the case, your familiarity, to the extent you have familiarity, your connection with friends of friends, that it could make it more difficult for you to be fair and impartial?
I will have a hard time
Okay.
being fair.
Okay.
Just from.
That's fine. Look, there's only right answers here, truthful
I
answers.
understand the law, it's just.
Okay, that's fine. I appreciate your honesty. Thank you. What do you think? No objection.
Mr. Tovar, I'll go ahead and release you. I want to thank you for bearing with us, having you come in and out of the courthouse and all that, and doing your civic duty with us. I'll go ahead and release you. Thank you very much. So you're free to go. You don't have to stay unless you want to.
Okay.
Okay? Thanks very much, Mr. Tovar.
Have a good day, sir. Seat 6, Captain Jordan. Seat 6, Captain Jordan.
Tovar was excused from calling by the defense without state objection.
So can I ask you a question on how this came on? We can first.
Go ahead. How you
You
doing?
can come on in, ma'am. Go ahead and have a seat there. We'll be with you in just a minute.
Yeah, just come down here.
Thank you, Ms. Drake, very much for bearing with us. You're not in trouble, you haven't done anything wrong, don't worry. I'm going to let them talk to you outside the presence of the other folk for just a few minutes. So if you just make sure you speak up so we can hear you and be as candid with us as you can, okay?
Right, okay.
Good morning, ma'am.
On.
Ms. Drake, we brought you in because in your questionnaire, you had indicated that you might know something about the case. And obviously, we do this individually so that everybody doesn't know what Ms. Drake knows and Ms. Drake doesn't learn what everybody else knows, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I want to start off with a basic couple of concepts with you, and then we'll come back and talk about exactly what you know and how it made you feel and what opinions you might have formed, okay?
Right.
So we're in a court of law. The judge is the final word on the law. If you're selected as a juror in here, he's going to give you rules. And you got to follow those rules in order to be a juror in this case, okay?
Yes.
One of the rules he'll tell you, and I know you've heard of this, is the presumption of innocence. Everybody who's charged with a crime in this country must be presumed innocent from the outset. Well, that doesn't mean they are innocent, but it means you as a juror have got to start off making that presumption that they are innocent. And the only time that presumption goes away is when the people who charged the crime, the government,
Yes.
prove it with evidence, right?
Yes.
Which would be testimony and exhibits and everything that happens here in the courtroom, okay?
Yes.
All right. We can't rely on, what Ms. Drake learned from the media or from personal experiences or anything like that. That wouldn't be fair to anybody in this case. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay. So let's just keep that in mind, Ms. Drake, for one moment. And then now tell me what you know about the case, what you know about any of the people in the case, and we'll talk about what effect you think that might have on your ability to be fair.
Okay, I know about the case by seeing it on TV, and I also worked with the Sarge when I was on light duty at the school board office, because he was a resource officer also.
I see.
So that's how I got to know him from there.
Tell us, because everybody's going to want to know, like, what do you remember detail-wise about what happened during the incident?
That he had made a traffic stop with the person, and he was killed.
No other details, that's just kind of generally what you remember?
Yes, but I've seen it on the news when it first happened.
I understand. And then what about since then? Because that was over 2.5 years ago. Have you seen anything since then?
In the newspapers.
Okay. Okay. And any more details that you can remember from anything you saw in the newspaper? I know. It's all right. I mean, if you don't remember, we do know it's a long time ago. It's not the center of your life. So we're just looking to get as much detail as possible. That's about all you can remember?
Yes, and I kept up with his service, everything that was going on about him.
Okay. All right. Did we know from some of the other jurors that there were fundraisers? Did you participate in any fundraisers?
No.
No? Okay. So you said something interesting during your initial statement, and that was you referred to him as the Sarge.
Yes.
What does that mean?
That's what we used to call him,
Okay. All right. All right. So you tell me a little bit more about your personal dealings with Sergeant Morales when he was working as a school resource officer. Tell me the nature of that relationship.
Well, I worked with him every day when I was on light duty at the school board office in the security.
Okay.
And he was a couple of seats down from me.
Okay.
That's what they, we used to just talk just a little bit.
All right, did you consider yourself a friend of his?
Yes, but not a close friend, but.
A work friend?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So obviously, their defense is going to want to know, do you have any concern in your own mind that, like I told you, the law said that you can't consider anything you learned outside the courtroom in judging what happened? The law will also tell you that you can't allow your personal feelings or your emotions to affect or impact your verdict in this case.
Right.
That's the law.
Yes,
And to be qualified, you have to follow the law, right?
yes.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a question about each one of those. Number one, if the judge tells you that you cannot consider anything you learned about the incident from outside during your deliberations in this case, can you follow the judge's instruction on that law?
Yes.
Great. The second one is, even though we know you have this work relationship with Sergeant Morales, can you promise us that you will not allow that to affect or influence your verdict in this case? That is, can you be fair and impartial and not just say, well, he was a friend of mine, therefore I'm going to vote guilty? Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay. Can you set aside your personal work relationship with Sergeant Morales and render a verdict in this case based only on the evidence and the law?
Yes.
And I'll ask you very clearly, any doubt in your mind about your ability to do that?
No, no.
No. Okay. All right.
He was a good guy.
That's fine. That's fine. You know what? Good people who are murdered and bad people who are murdered all are entitled to have their case tried fairly. Would you agree?
Yes.
And so we can't be making factual determinations on whether somebody was good, bad, or otherwise.
Yes.
Okay. So you can set that aside, your knowledge of him, and render a verdict in this case based on the facts and the evidence.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr.
I have some questions for you about Sarge and also about what you know about what you learned about the case up until today. Is that okay?
Yes.
I'm just going to kind of, I have to start with some very blunt realities that you may not have thought of, and it's not your fault, but I feel that I really have to bring them up right now because I can't take the chance. I heard what you just said to Mr. Backadall, but I can't take the chance on having you on the jury panel and then having issues with what I'm about to talk about later. Okay?
Yes.
There is, without a doubt, you are going to wind up seeing photographs of Sarge lying on a metal table, dead.
Okay.
Did that change your mind about whether or not you think that this is going to be a good case for you to sit on?
No, it's not.
It's not a good case for you to sit on?
No.
Okay, I appreciate that, and I'm really sorry to have had to set it to you like that, but it's too important for this to just pass by and for you to realize it later, and I didn't want you to have to be in that position. Okay? So I greatly appreciate your time. Thank you very much for coming in. I have no other questions for you, and defense is moving for cause.
No objection, yes. All right, Mr. Drake, I'll go ahead and release you. I do want to thank you for bearing with us, shuffling in and out and coming down and imposing on your time. Thank you for doing your civic duty with us. You're going to be free to go. You don't have to stay unless you want to.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Drake. You have a nice weekend, man.
Look at Abraham.
You too.
Father changed books. See, they changed books.
Excuse for calling for the defense.
Sir, this way, please. Right down this.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks, for bearing with us. You can go ahead and have a seat there on your left, right there where he's indicated.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks, very much. You're not in trouble, you haven't done anything wrong. You can go ahead and have a seat. I want to let them talk to you outside the presence of the other folks for just a few minutes, so if you just make sure you speak up for us so we can hear you and be as candid with us as you can, okay?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Thank you for your patience. Very quickly, we wanted to touch on information you had from an outside source. We do it individually so others don't learn what you know. I start off by just kind of making a couple very obvious statements, and one is we're in a court of law, right?
Right.
Okay, and therefore the only thing that matters, the only thing that controls here is the law, and the law will be provided to you in black and white, literally, by the judge, all right?
Yes, sir.
And so what I'm looking for, what we're all looking for, is a commitment from each of you that you're willing and able to follow the law. So with that, I'll start off with a couple very basic propositions. Ever heard of the presumption of innocence?
Yes.
Okay? That the law requires, that the United States Constitution says everybody who appears before a jury must be presumed innocent by that jury. That doesn't mean he's innocent, but that means you have to presume him to be innocent to start out. Can you accept that?
Yes.
The second is, your government accuses one of your fellow citizens of a crime, as we did in this case. It's our job to prove it. Correct?
Understood.
That's the law, and the judge will tell you the only evidence we can rely on to prove a defendant's guilt is evidence that is presented here in open court for everybody to see. Are you with me?
Yes.
Okay. So, with those two basic understandings taken care of, let's move to the media exposure that you, or what you think you may know or have read, seen, or heard about the case. And I know we're talking a while ago, and so we're looking for as much detail as possible. We're trying to figure out where you got it from, but we understand that the passage of time affects memory. So just go ahead.
Okay. I recall when this incident occurred, it was in the papers, said that Gary Morales was killed, that I believe the defendant drove away in a car and he was stopped later on. Truthfully, that's about all I recall.
Okay. Now, was that information you received 2.5 years ago, over 2.5 years ago?
Yes, in the newspapers and the television.
Okay. Since that time, have you followed the case? Have you seen anything on the case to the best of your recollection?
I believe I saw in the paper that this trial was coming up, and I
Okay.
don't recall more than that.
Okay. And then obviously the judge told you don't follow anything since you've been here, and I'm sure you follow that because you already told me you will follow it. Right?
Right?
Okay. So, again, because you've already accepted the legal proposition that the case is proven here, it shouldn't come as any surprise to you that the judge will tell you you cannot consider any information from an outside source in arriving at your verdict. I'll ask you this. Do you believe everything you read in the paper or see on TV?
No.
Okay. Because on occasion they may get it wrong, right?
Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
Okay. And that's obviously why the rule is we don't allow anything to come in from outside, because it's not subject to the scrutiny of examination in an open court of law. So my first question to you is, can you promise us that you will set aside anything you may recall having read, seen, or heard during the time frame in question, and rely only on what happens here in court in arriving at your verdict in this case?
I believe I can do that.
Okay, let me put it to you this way. You said the deputy was shot and killed, I think. I'm paraphrasing, but shot, right?
I believe that was the case in
Yeah,
the paper.
so if we put on evidence that the deputy was actually stabbed to death, you're going to rely on the fact that he was shot, or are you going to rely on what the evidence is here?
You'd have to follow the evidence.
That's right. Okay. All right, and you can do that, correct?
I believe I can, yes.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Mr. Brooks, good morning to you, sir. I don't have any questions for you today. Thank you very much.
Mr. Brooks, thank you. I'm going to let you go today. I'm going to give you a card with a phone number here on the back. If you'll please call this number after 5 p.m. tonight, there'll be some information about what, if anything else we need you to do with this case. But you're free to go today. Call after 5 p.m., okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, he'll give you a card with that date on. As soon as you give the card, you can go.
Have a good day, sir.
I already am, thank you.
Kimberly Amos. She was, okay, we gave her a card. Fred LaSala.
Bobby, next one, seat 10, Fred LaSalle. Mr. LaSalle, this way, please.
Thank you, sir, for bearing with us. You just have a seat there on your left there in the front row.
Please take a seat right there. Thank you, sir.
Mr. LaSala, thanks for bearing with us. We appreciate your time very much.
Yes, sir.
You're not in trouble. We have nothing wrong. Don't worry. I'm going to let you outside the presence of the other folks for just a few minutes. So if you can just make sure you speak up so we can hear you, and just be as candid with us as you can, okay?
Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You mentioned on your questionnaire that you knew Sergeant Morales, you had met him a few times at tattoo shop.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Correct.
Is that something that would keep you from being a fair juror in this case?
Well, not as much as what I spoke of.
Okay.
What does have weighs on me, my personal opinion or belief.
Okay. Well, let me tell you this, that what the law is that the prosecutors, the state of Florida, Mr. Backerall and I, have the burden of proof here.
Yes.
We have to put on evidence and convince the jury beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant is guilty of the crimes he's charged with. And we'll do that by calling in witnesses and have them take the witness stand and raise their right hand and swear to tell the truth. And then they're going to tell you about what they heard, what they saw, and what they did involved in this case. And when all that evidence that you've heard all the evidence, and you make a decision as to what happened and whether or not what happened violates the law. Do you think there's something about this case that would prevent you from doing that?
Yes.
Okay, what's that?
The convicted felon having a handgun.
Okay. Now, again, that charge, just like murder of a police officer and the other charges in this case, we're going to, before this is all said and done, we'll probably talk to about 250 people. I don't think any one of them is going to be for murder or for felons having firearms. Is that what your issue is? That because he's a felon, is just you feel like you couldn't be fair to him?
Yes, sir. My son is a convicted felon and has a respect not to carry a firearm and is not allowed to. He's been in front of Judge Vaughn before. Now 5 years clean and sober, out of prison by my side in the ministry, and I think it's a blatant disrespect for the law.
Okay. And if you heard evidence that this defendant was a felon and possessed a firearm, you couldn't be fair?
No, sir. My son's not able to hunt with his family. Can't even carry a gun and hunting. We hunt as a family, and we can't do that anymore.
I understand. Thank you.
State have any objections?
No objection.
Okay, Mr. LaSalle, I'm going to go ahead and release you. I want to thank you for bearing with us, having you come in and out and filling out the questionnaires and all that, so I appreciate you doing your civic duty.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to go ahead and release you. You don't have to stay unless you want to. You're free to go, okay?
Yes, sir.
You have a nice weekend, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Bow hunting, bow hunting.
Well, that's what he has to use now.
There you go.
LaSalle has been excused for cause by the South State Objection. Ms. Sims, come in, please.
Ma'am, up here, please.
Ms. Sims, for bearing with us. You can have a seat right there in that front row.
Just take a seat right there. Thank you very much.
Thank you for bearing with us very much, ma'am. You're not in trouble. You have anything wrong. I want to let them talk to you outside the presence of the other folks for just a few minutes, so if you can just make sure you speak up for us so we can hear you and be as candid with us as you can. Okay?
Good morning. Thank you for your patience. We brought you in so we could talk about what you know about the case, but so that nobody else hears what you know, right? Otherwise, it'll just go around and around. So I want to start off talking to you about basically the law for a second. You consider yourself a rule follower? You follow the law?
Yes, I do.
Okay, great. So we're in a court of law. In the end, at the end of the day, the judge is going to tell you what the law is, from soup to nuts, from beginning to end. And you will have taken an oath to follow that law. There are no other laws that will apply to this case. You must follow the laws the judge has given you, okay?
Yes.
All right. One of the laws the judge will tell you is one I know you've heard of, and that's the presumption of innocence, right? Remember that from school, high school, college, whatever the case may be, that everybody who walks through that door, whether they're charged with murder or theft of a piece of bubble gum, are presumed innocent before the jury. Now, it doesn't mean they're innocent. What it means is you've got to presume them to be innocent. That's how you got to start the process out, okay? The second law, the second major legal principle is that when your government, through the state of Florida, Mr. Eisner and I, charge one of your fellow citizens with a crime, we've got to prove it, right? And we prove it by offering evidence and testimony here in this court that's open for everybody to see and can be subject to challenge, and then you arrive at a verdict. That's how this process works. That's it in a nutshell. Can you accept that?
Yes.
Okay. So one of the things, as you would imagine, because of what we just talked about, the judge will say is you can't consider anything from the outside about this case in arriving at your verdict. It's got to be based on what happens here.
Correct.
So keep that in mind, and now tell us, as best as possible, in as much detail as possible, what you think you know about the case, where you learned it, and then we'll talk about how that works with the law.
Okay. You want me to stand?
You go. No, you
Okay,
stay.
thank you.
If you want to stand, you can stand, but you don't have to.
Okay, I don't have much information about it.
Okay.
I just started getting information the day I came here for
Okay.
the first selection.
Okay?
I try not to pay much attention to it, as I was told, don't do too much follow up with it, so I try to stay away from news.
Okay?
I'm not a news person, growing up, no news is good news, so I just don't stay on news.
Okay. So we need to know what did you hear when you say you heard about it when you got here? Are you talking about from the questionnaire?
Well,
or?
basically, when I went home, there was the news
Okay.
about the person,
Okay.
shot
Okay.
the sheriff.
Okay.
Like I said, I don't have much detail because I don't follow up, and this happening in Fort Pierce. So
Okay.
basically, I don't have a lot of information, but that's what I heard. But I don't try to get too much into the news.
Okay, so I just want to, when you guys came the first day, and then Mr. Eisenhower's here, and the judge told everybody after you fill this out, did you learn something after you left here?
Well, after I left here, it was like all over the news.
Okay.
It was like more, of a frequent.
Okay.
But I try not to spend too much time. Like I said, I'm not a news person.
Yeah.
I try to, refrain myself from listening to, news.
Okay, so when it came on, did you avoid it? Because we
Yes,
want to make
I-
sure you follow the
yes.
judge's rule.
I avoided, as I was told.
Okay.
Just stay away from the media. The moment I saw that, once you turn it on, you're going to see something.
No, I know.
flashing.
Right.
So I just refrain myself from news.
Okay, so tell us again, what is it that you think you learned in those little snippets?
The little clipping is that the person, pulled a gun out and shot the officer. That basically was, and I switch over. I
Okay.
mean, like I said, I don't want to get into the
Okay.
news.
Okay.
Right.
All right, well, and you could probably glean when the judge told you what the charges are, it's murder, so somebody's dead.
Right. It was on the paper the first day I came.
This paper?
Right.
Okay.
The survey that I did. Mhm.
Okay, so let's go back where you and I started, and that is, the judge will tell you whatever you learn from outside the courtroom
Right.
cannot come in here. You
Correct.
can't consider that.
Correct.
So you must rely on the testimony in court, right?
Absolutely.
And so I'll give you an absurd analogy. You told me that what you heard was
Right.
shot, right? That
Right.
the deputy was shot.
Mhm.
What if me and Mr. Eisenhower show actually the deputy was stabbed?
Uh-huh.
Are you going to say, well, I don't care what I heard in court, I think he was shot?
No. That's why we're here.
Right.
To prove
Yes.
what really happened.
Okay.
And as you specify, in every case, that person is innocent until, before they come to, the
Perfect.
trial. So
Okay.
that's why we're here, to just make sure that we're following the law and, applying the right application.
Exactly, that's right. Okay, you can do that.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you, ma'am. No further questions.
Thank you.
Hold on.
I'm sorry.
Good morning.
Morning.
When you heard this on the news the other day, what type of emotions did you have? What did you feel?
Well, when I heard, as I specify, I'm not a news follower,
because to me, you know, all along, no good news is good news to me. I have kids, so I try to refrain, you know, I get...
Right, if you don't get the phone call, you don't need to worry, because nothing bad
Yeah, I
happens.
try to refrain, you know,
Right.
from news now. So that's it. So, I mean, basically that's what I did. So I didn't have much information, like I said, until when I came here for my first jury duty. That's when everything just started, you know, clicking the news. So.
Yep.
Mhm.
And out of the little bit that you did hear, the fact that the deputy was shot, or sheriff was shot, he said, how did that make you feel?
Well, I mean, for me, on my perspective, I don't judge, and that's why we're here, to prove what really happened. I'm not the one to decide on that, like, you know, my prosecutor said, it's up to us to make a decision to see what really happened, so that's why I'm here.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I have no other questions for you.
Okay, thank you.
State, have any other questions, please? No, sir. Ms. Sims, I'm going to give you a card with a phone number on the back of it here. You're free to go today. If you'll call this number after 5 p.m. tonight, there'll be some information about what we need you to do, if anything, okay? So you're free to go today, but just call after 5 p.m. tonight, okay?
Absolutely.
As soon as you
Thank
give me the card, ma'am, you can go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for bearing with us, ma'am.
Thank you.
Have a good day, ma'am.
Thank you.
Have Ms. Magwood come in, please.
Bobby, next one is C12, Elena Magwood. Elena Magwood. Ma'am, up here, please.
Ms. Magwood, thank you for bearing with us. You can have a seat back there, any left there in the front row.
Just take a seat right here, please. Thank you very much.
We appreciate your time very much, ma'am. You're not in trouble or anything, you haven't done anything wrong, don't worry. I'm going to let them talk to you outside the presence of the other folks for just a few minutes, so if you'll just make sure you speak up so we can hear you and be as candid with us as you can, okay?
Yes.
Good morning, man.
Come on.
Thanks for your patience. Obviously, we brought you in to talk about what you know so that the others don't learn what you know and you don't learn what they know. A couple real basic concepts of law I'll start off with, which in a courtroom, the only thing that matters is the law. And we're here to try to determine whether or not you as an individual juror can follow the judge's instructions on the law, okay? Consider yourself a rule follower?
Yeah.
Okay. The judge will tell you, number one, that the defendant is to be presumed innocent. That doesn't mean he's innocent, but what that means is when you start this process out, you have to presume him to be innocent. Because we level charges on behalf of the state. And when your government accuses one of your fellow citizens of a crime, guess who's got to prove it? Who?
Yeah.
You got that right. So that's done through testimony and evidence here in court, not based on what somebody might have learned, read, heard, or seen about the case on the outside. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. With those two concepts in mind, tell me what it is you think you know about the case in as much detail as possible, and tell us about the source of that information.
I don't know details about the case. I don't watch a lot of news, so originally I probably heard it at work.
Okay.
I do work for Kaiser University. Gary Morales did attend Kaiser University.
Okay.
I don't personally know him, I've never met him.
Okay.
I have coworkers that knew him.
All right. Okay. And so let's talk about that for a moment. So, just like I told you, the only way you can render a verdict in this case is based upon the testimony that occurs here. The judge will also tell you that as a matter of law, you can't allow sympathies, bias, prejudice, emotion to weigh in on that process. Now, I know you're not personally friends with Sergeant Morales. A lot of people went to school. A lot of people go to school at Kaiser. But what we need to assess is whether you can assure us that you can follow that instruction as well. That is, the fact that at some point in time Sergeant Morales attended Kaiser, that will not be brought to bear on your deliberative process in this case. Can you promise us that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you also promise us that whatever it is you think you know about the case from an outside source will not be brought to bear or will not impact your final decision in this case?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any doubt in your mind about your ability to follow the law in those two regards?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Well,
Mr. Pincher.
Hey, good morning, Ms. Magwood. I guess I want to start with where you kind of ended off with the fact that some of your coworkers actually knew Sergeant Morales.
yes, sir.
How many of your coworkers knew him that you know of?
probably the criminal justice director. Off the top of my head, I don't know exactly.
Do you think it's only the criminal justice director that you talk to about it?
I've never had a personal conversation about it in detail. I just know that they know him. I believe they've had a fundraiser at Kaiser for him or his family.
What have you learned about Sergeant Rouse because of him attending Kaiser? Like, did you hear he's a good guy?
I honestly, I haven't had any detailed conversations about him specifically.
What is your position in the school?
One of the registrars.
So do you have access to, like, if, for example, and I'm not saying that you would or that you have, but if, for example, you wanted to look at what grade Sergeant Rouse got on for a class or for a test, is that something that you would be able to do?
Yes.
Because of your employment?
Yes.
Would you be able to look at, and again, I'm not saying that you have or that you would, but if you wanted to, would you be able to look at, for example, his personal file, his personnel file? If he had a disciplinary, and I'm not saying that he does, but if he had a disciplinary action or something inside of his student file, that would be something that you would be able to have access to, correct?
Yes.
Did you wind up attending the fundraiser that was held?
No, sir.
Do you have friends or coworkers that did? That you
No,
know of?
but everyone. Probably.
And I apologize because I talked over you, but did you say pretty much everyone?
Everyone
Who
that attended.
well, again, I'm sorry, this is my
I don't know
fault.
what type of fundraiser it may have been. I don't honestly know details about it. Again, that was probably a year and a half ago. But I know they did have something for him. I don't know, maybe raising money, I'm not sure.
How did you actually wind up learning about it? Were there flyers? Was an email sent by the school?
Learning about what?
The fundraiser or the benefit?
Probably there might have been an email or flyer. They post around for students every event, every charity. We have a monthly newsletter, so it could have been in there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you're on your questionnaire, you wrote that you had learned some things about the case through both television and the newspaper. Was that right?
Possibly. I mean, I don't watch the news. I don't really get to watch TV a lot. So, I mean, I probably, when it first happened, I probably either saw it on the TV or in a newspaper.
Do you, okay, so because you don't watch TV very often, if it happened to come on, you were just saying that just in case you might have remembered a story about it on the TV? Do you get a newspaper delivered to your house?
I don't.
I know a lot of the local news stations and newspapers, local newspapers also have the ability where you can go on their website or you can like them on Facebook and they'll put stuff on your Facebook feed. Do you get any of your news like that at all?
No.
How do you get local news?
I don't.
Okay.
Usually most news is out there, so I don't really care to watch the news.
So, didn't hear much about it when it happened. Did you investigate it at all when you heard about the fundraiser or the benefit at your school?
I didn't.
Do you remember them giving any type of a synopsis in the email? Sergeant Rouse, such and such happened?
I wouldn't be accurate in saying that they did. It was probably general. Usually everything is pretty general with any type of events we do.
Since you came in here last week and you filled out the questionnaire, have you had any incidents where you've learned anything over the past week?
I haven't.
Good. And in the, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks prior to coming in here and filling out the questionnaire, had you heard any news about the case at all?
No, the first time I even thought about it was when I came for jury service last week, and another potential juror said, I hope that we're not on the case with the police officer. So I hadn't, not even had a thought in my mind about it.
And so the other juror was talking to you, this is before you filled out the questionnaire, I'm guessing, right? When you were just downstairs?
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
They're recording it,
I'm
which
sorry,
is why
I apologize.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mr. And how did that make you feel, knowing that you could potentially be on a jury for an officer that got killed?
Well, that's a major case, so obviously I was not prepared for coming into that type of trial. I'm more concerned the length of the trial and the strain it could put on not being at work for weeks upon end.
Did you have any, other than, and I certainly understand the hardship, but other than thinking about that, did you have any thoughts that came to your head when you learned that this is a case involving not just an officer being killed, but Sergeant Morales, somebody who was fundraisers were held at your school?
Just wishing that of all cases, I probably, it's a tough case, so I've never been a juror before, so I really didn't have specific feelings. I just, of all jury trials I could have been called for, it's a very tough case.
It is.
I think any case like this is tough.
Is it tough more because it involves, they're accusing him of first-degree murder of a law enforcement officer, so is it more the nature of the charge or the nature of the possible penalty that state attorney is going to be asking you to recommend death? Is it one of those two, or is it a combination?
I just think just the case in general, it's a murder trial period, no matter who the victim or anyone is. That's a strong case, so.
All right, I appreciate your answers and I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. I have no other questions.
We're okay with giving her a card?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
No. Hang on one second.
Give her a card, please, Judge.
Ms. Magwood, I'm going to let you go today. I'm going to give you a card with a phone number here on the back. If you'll please call this number after 5 p.m. tonight. There'll be a message on there, some information about what, if anything else, you need to do with this case. You're free to go today, but if you'll please call after 5 p.m. tonight. Okay? As soon as he gives you a card, ma'am, you can go.
Sure.
Thanks for bearing with us.
Thank you.
Have a good day, ma'am.
Have Ms. Hazel come in.
C14, Samuel Diesel, C14, Samuel Diesel. Ms. Hazel, up here, please.
Hazel, thanks for bearing with us. You can have a seat right there on your left there in the front row. Appreciate your patience and bearing with us. You're not in trouble. You haven't done anything wrong. I'm going to let them talk to you outside the presence of the other folks for just a few minutes. So if you can just make sure you speak up so we can hear you. And just be as candid with us as you can, okay?
Good afternoon. Good. We brought you in, Mr. Hazel, because I believe you had indicated maybe you knew something about the case. And obviously we need to handle that outside the presence of the jurors so they don't know what you know, right? Okay? Okay. So we're going to start off with the basic proposition that this is a courtroom where the rule of law applies. The rule of law says that the state must meet its burden of proof in this case based solely and exclusively on testimony and evidence offered here in court, okay? Okay, is there any reason why you don't think you could follow the judge's instructions on the law in this case?
No.
Okay. So let's start off with talking about the information that you may have read, seen, or heard outside the courtroom. Can you give us as much detail as possible regarding what that information is and where you got it?
The only information that I heard, I believe I was living in Fort Myers at the time. I saw somebody posted the officer's picture on Facebook.
Okay.
And that was it.
And so you weren't even living here at the time that the incident occurred?
No, I think I had just moved or right before I moved, but I remember just seeing the picture on Facebook.
Okay, and so I don't know exactly how that works, but is there like an article that's connected to it, or?
There may have been. I didn't read it. I've
All right.
never seen that.
All right, so you have no details or information regarding the events related to this incident?
No.
Okay, so fair to say, if the law is you cannot consider anything you may have read, seen, or heard outside the courtroom, you could follow that law, since particularly in light of the fact you don't know anything?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other reason why you couldn't serve on this jury?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning to you, Mr. Hazel. I don't have any questions for you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Hazel, I'm going to let you go today. I'm going to give you a card with a phone number on the back here. If you'll call this number after 5 p.m. tonight, there'll be some information on there about what we need you to do, if anything else, with this case. So you're free to go now if you just please call this number.
Okay.
Okay, you understand?
Yes.
Okay, as soon as he gives you the card, you can go.
All right, sir. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Thank you. You as well.
We have Mr. Cologne come in, please. Scott Cologne.
Seat 15, seat 15, Scott Coleman, seat 15. Sir, up here, please.
Thank you very much for bearing with us, sir.
Take
Right
your
there on
seat.
the left.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for your patience. If you're not in trouble, you haven't done anything wrong, I'm going to let him talk to you outside the other, presence of the other folks for a few minutes. If you can just make sure you speak up for us and be as candid with us as you can, okay?
Right. Good morning still, yes, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
I think you raised your hand today that maybe you'd learned something about the case from an outside source, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. What we like to explain to folks, kind of what the rules are, what the ground rules are here. Obviously, we're here in a courtroom, so the law is what controls, right? You gotta answer out loud.
Oh, yes.
Oh, that's all right, they're recording everything, so the head nod doesn't get it, that's okay. Right, they record it and then we get it back up later if necessary. So, as I said, the rule of law is what controls, and the rules here are that anything you learned outside of court, you can't bring into court. You have to base your verdict on what you hear actually here in the courtroom. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So why don't you tell us, please, what is it about the case that you've learned?
As I walked into my break room, I heard associates talking about the intent of the case,
Okay.
the officer being shot.
You mean recently?
Yes.
Okay, when was that?
Friday,
Okay.
last week.
All right, so that would have been just after you filled out this questionnaire?
Yeah.
All right. And so you knew the judge's instruction about avoiding that, so what did you end up doing? Did you tell them to cut it out?
At the stop, I grabbed my vest and headed back out to the floor.
Okay. We appreciate that. Is anything that they said, well, what did you hear them saying is probably the better question.
Shortly that I guess the officer was shot while he was still in his car. 3 shots, I believe.
Any other details you heard them saying as you walked in?
No, that's what I told him, you know, I was coming in, so.
Prior to that, had you heard anything about the case before?
No.
So, first time you heard about Sergeant Morales being killed was when you read the questionnaire here?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything about that or this case that would keep you from being a fair juror in the case?
Yes.
Okay, what's that?
Murder of a police officer.
And because the police officer's been murdered, you feel like that you couldn't be fair, give both sides a fair trial?
Yes.
Based simply on the fact that the victim's a police officer?
Yes.
All right, no other questions?
Mr. Manchin, you wish to inquire?
Hey, good morning, Mr. Capone. Morning. I just want to ask you 2 questions about the last thing that you were talking about. Is it murder in general? Is it because law enforcement officers are involved? What are you thinking about that would make this be difficult for you to sit on this case?
Murder of a police officer. The police officer died in duty type of thing.
That's something that obviously nobody wants to have happen, right? So by being a juror on the case, you understand that you're in no way condoning that, right?
Right.
So I mean, you would agree that killing a police officer while they're doing their duty is not a good thing, right?
Yes.
So that being said, and understanding that you're not condoning it by being part of the process, do you feel a little bit more comfortable about it now?
No.
Okay. Thank you very much. I don't have any other questions.
Wish to approach, or do you wish to have given a card?
Give him a card, Judge.
Sure.
Please.
Sir, I'm going to give you a card with a phone number on the back. If you'll please call this number after 5 p.m. tonight. You don't need to stay, you're free to go today, but if you'll please call this number, there'll be some information on there about what, if anything else, you need to do. You're free to go now, but if you'll call after 5. Okay?
Have a good day. C17, Patricia Burgess. Ms. Burgess up here, please. Sure.
Ms. Burgess, thanks for bearing with us. You can come right there in the front row there on your left, where he's indicating.
Take a seat right there. Thank you very much.
Thanks, ma'am, for bearing with us. We appreciate your patience. You're not in trouble.